Time now to talk about cold water, which in Tasmania is never too far away, Nick, and the effects of falling into cold water can in fact be deadly.
Whether it is the lakes, Andrew, or the sea that surrounds our states, there are serious ramifications for falling in the drink, and we're here at the Australian Antarctic Division to discover more.
Tasmania is surrounded by water that's cold enough to kill, and it doesn't matter what time of year it is, whether it's in the state's Highland Lakes or off the coast. Even in summer, if you find yourself in the drink for any length of time, you can quickly get into trouble.
Some people say it's water less than 25 degrees, but practically here in Tasmania, we'd be thinking of water less than 15 degrees. It resonates with people, and we can demonstrate physiological changes with when you have a sudden immersion in cold water.
Should you fall into cold water, there are 3 impacts of sudden immersion that you should know about, and the first one happens immediately.
The cold shock response is one of the most important. So as soon as you fall into cold water, your body goes through a number of physiological responses, and the first of that is there is an involuntary gasp reflex. If you're under the water, within 10 or 12 seconds, you have to take a gasp, and that is where you are at risk of inhaling the water, whether it's seawater or fresh water. That is, a potential cause of immediate drowning if you haven't got your head above the water. It's an involuntary response. So the idea is to be keeping your head out of the water and keeping your with your flotation device, PFDs on, and ensuring that you don't get submerged.
Keeping your head above water is the only way to ensure that the involuntary gasp won't mean you'll swallow water, and that can be done by always wearing your life jacket.
After the cold shock response, the other aspects of the cold shock response I should let you know is that you have uncontrolled increased breathing, rapid heart rate, and especially if there's a lot of wave splash around, whilst you're trying to control your breathing over that first minute, the wave splash can cause inhalation of water. Then the next phase of the cold water immersion is actually swimming failure. In 10 minutes, even the best swimmers, and this has been demonstrated by the Royal Navy in the Olympics, with the Olympic swimmers, that in laboratory conditions, that they will not be able to maintain their swim stroke more than, say, about 10 minutes. Because of muscle rigidity and loss of coordination of their arms and legs.
So no matter how fit you are, when in cold water you won't be able to swim for more than about the first 10 minutes. Therefore, it's important to conserve as much energy as you can. One method is to adopt the heat position.
The risk of cold water immersion is hypothermia, and that depends on what you're wearing. And if you're wearing a light clothing or a wetsuit or a dry suit, immersion suit is optimal. And so depending on how much insulation you have under that clothing and your body fat and whether you're injured or fatigued, and also the sea state, hypothermia will develop over the next, say, 40 minutes through to the next 6 hours, depending on the temperature and all those other aspects. Of course, if you can get out of the water, that would be even better still, because once you're in the water, you lose heat 25 times as much as you lose heat when you're on land.
Just recently, Hobart kayaker William Mary Lee's got a first-hand experience of the effects of being in cold water for a significant length of time. After leaving the calm waters of Fortescue Bay, he ventured a little too far out to sea and found himself upside down and in the water.
I was a little bit silly and I took a bit of a risk by going a little bit further out, not realising how bad the waters were out there. I almost got up, I think the first and second time, but the waves were just it was just in bad timing with the waves, because they just kept knocking me over every time I got up. So I just had to eject out of the kayak. And so after I ejected, I tried flipping the boat back over and getting back in. But again, I think it was mainly because it was also side on to the waves. So the waves just kept pushing the balance out, so I couldn't quite get in.
Luckily, a mobile phone in a waterproof pouch and being in an area of phone reception meant William was able to call the police for help. When the police arrived, William had been in the water for about an hour and the effects of cold water had well and truly set in.
I thought that my body had actually heated up and I was coping with it, but actually it was probably the complete opposite. My body temperature when they checked on the ambulance was 33, but I'm guessing it might have been probably lower than that when I was in the water. And near the end, my legs started, when I was sort of dog paddling to the coastline, my legs started cramping up and I felt like I couldn't extend my left leg. And so I was just sort of it was like I was limping the last few metres.
William has learnt many lessons from his experience, including to always carry an EPIRB when paddling.
So remember, in Tasmania, any water can be cold enough to kill. Best tips for survival are to wear a life jacket at all times, carry a form of communication such as an EPIRB, and conserve your energy as best you can, and always stay with the boat.